Okay, open up your dialogue script and follow along. Print it out if you can. In part one of this dialogue, we have this sentence. No, I don't like this cat, but it likes me. Ja, jag genuus ne gigan dagos, nikchi wagenuus ni e. That's pretty straightforward. Remember that the most important information is front-loaded in a sentence or question or response. Next, in ja dexenuus, we see a little grammar rule here. Our hidden H pops up in the negation so that we maintain that true S sound. I talked about that in a previous lesson. And remember that R in roderiandere changes to an H when we negate it because R's do that. So roderiandere when negated becomes ja de hoderiandere. Part 2 is pretty straightforward. In part 3, we see how we can use the word wahi. Yago deriandere ne wari, ji dagos not ne e, wahi. Mary knows it's a cat, eh? And the response, because we've kind of turned that into a yes or no question by throwing that wahi in at the end, the response here begins with ha, yes. Mary knows that it's a cat. So you can use that wahi to turn something into kind of a yes or a no question. In English, we kind of say in it or a at the end of a question like that. A great thing to do with these dialogues is to practice writing out the translation as best you can. I'll give you some clues using this last question. Ezo ga roderiandere ne wise. So let's take that word by word. We have ezo, a lot, ga, our question word, roderiandere, he knows, ne, which is a particle we use to introduce information, and in this case it's introducing the name wise, Michael. So we have a lot, question, he knows, Michael. So how are we going to reorder that to make it sound like common English? It's kind of all mixed up. We know that what we're questioning is the amount, ezo. And that question word ga, let's put that at the end like we do in English. So we have a lot. A lot of what? A lot of knowing. Ezo roderiandere. A lot he knows. A lot he knows? Who are we talking about? Who is the he? It's Michael. A lot Michael knows? Well, that's gotten to the gist of our question, but that's certainly not how we'd ask it in plain English. In plain English, we'd say, does Michael know a lot? So you see, when we're working on an English translation, we have to reorder the words. And we add in words that are implied, and we use the meanings that our particles infer. So you'll probably find it's much easier to understand the gist of a sentence than it is to do a translation. So another thing you can do is use the vocabulary we've covered to try out new sentences or questions and pose them in the message board on our site for others to either answer or translate. That would be a great way to use the forum. And that's because one of the best ways to learn this stuff is to use it. So take a look at your dialogue scripts to date and try switching out a prefix here, a noun there, a name, or a verb, now that you have two, and see what you can come up with. Play with it and don't be afraid to make mistakes.